mean, did you take the money? At one stage you had $40,000 cash sitting in front of you. Did you take it?
Absolutely, yes. And it was given to me and I got it in the car and then returned it straight away.
Once the scandal broke?
As soon as I knew it was a scandal, not once it broke, Michael. But don't try and trick me now, because I'm not going to play this game. Delete that bit.
Sarah Ferguson has always had a flair for drama, but the stories coming out now about her wild spending habits are beyond anything royal watchers could have imagined. We're talking about feasts fit for Henry VIII, tens of thousands spent on trainers she barely used, and shopping sprees so out of control that even the Queen herself reportedly had to step in to cover the bills. According to royal biographer Andrew Lownie, whose new book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York lifts the lid on the Duchess's financial chaos, Sarah Ferguson wasn't just living large, she was living like money would never run out. Lownie's book claims the Duchess of York racked up millions in debt while living a life of pure indulgence. Designer shopping trips, private trainers, lavish dinner spreads, and a near-endless parade of luxury goods. He describes her world as one of opulent excess.
Is that it then, for Fergie, do you think? Is that the last that we will see of her, in public life at least?
Well, no, I think never say never with Fergie. She's a great survivor. She will quietly do things under the radar. I mean, there are plenty of people, particularly in places like China and the Middle East, who are quite happy to associate with her still.
Where bills were an afterthought, and someone else would always pick up the tab. And sometimes that someone was Queen Elizabeth II herself. It's hard to imagine how a woman who once lived inside royal palaces could fall so deeply into debt. But the details are staggering. In 1994, Coutts Bank, the same bank used by the royal family, demanded Sarah pay £500,000 within 14 days. The Queen reportedly stepped in with a personal bailout to save her from financial disaster. That wasn't the first time, either. Sources claim Her Majesty quietly helped clear her debts on multiple occasions over the years. But how did things spiral this far? Lownie's book paints a picture of extravagance that went unchecked for years. Take her Christmas shopping, for example. 2 Selfridges employees allegedly spent an entire day in the VIP suite, selecting hundreds of expensive gifts for one of her holiday parties.
This is why, one of the reasons the Queen loved you so much and you were so special to her. What did she mean to you?
Oh, you know, she just, I think I was just myself with her. And I was allowed to be myself with her, which is such a joy.
She was known to send assistants every few days to pick up face creams, cosmetics and hair products, all charged to her personal account. By the time the bills rolled in, Fergie owed £51,000 to Selfridges alone. Her staff have described scenes that sound more like a royal movie set than a family home. One former employee claimed she demanded nightly spreads that looked like a medieval banquet. Every evening, a side of beef, a leg of lamb, and an entire chicken were laid out on the dining table. But here's the catch. Most of it went uneaten. As one source put it, it's a feast that would make Henry VIII proud, and it's thrown out the next morning. Even the household's butler had to arrive at 4:30 a.m. to put fresh watercress on ice, just in case she wanted it later that day. And personal trainers, hairdressers, and Pilates instructors were reportedly paid hundreds of pounds per hour simply to be on standby.
Is the Duchess of York Epstein scandal about to hit her in the pocket? Well, maybe. Let me explain why. The charities linked to Sarah Ferguson on Monday certainly moved quickly to distance themselves from her.
Sometimes waiting all afternoon before she emerged. One trainer was allegedly paid £65,000 a year to be available, even though Fergie only used their services twice in 12 months. Despite the headlines and criticism, insiders say the Queen had a soft spot for her former daughter-in-law. Several palace sources told Lownie that Elizabeth II quietly covered Sarah's mounting bills on more than one occasion. But by 1994, the debts had reached an eye-watering £3.7 million. Fergie's spending had spiralled far beyond what her allowances and business deals could support. At one point, she reportedly needed bank approval to write even modest checks. And when local suppliers stopped getting paid, word spread quickly. A newsagent cut her off after a £500 bill went unpaid.
John, can
No,
you
hang
just
on,
delete
look.
it, please, that bit? Because I don't want to go down this.
Duchess,
it's
I'm
too
asking very
tabloidy.
fair questions of you.
No, it's too tabloidy.
John is Sarah's Australian agent, off-screen.
This is everything you've written in your book, though.
Yes, I know,
and,
but it's
and
the
you're
way
releasing your book, and you've
the
agreed
book
to do
I've
the
already,
interview because of this.
the book has already been released.
A local butcher and dry cleaner refused further service. Even her petrol card was confiscated when arrears piled up. Yet the Duchess seemed unfazed. Former staff say she always believed a new deal around the corner, a brand partnership, a TV appearance or another royal favour, would solve her financial mess. Real estate was another money pit. In 2009, Sarah reportedly signed a year-long lease for a £3 million mansion on the prestigious Wentworth estate in Surrey. The rent? £8,000 a month. But before she could move in, the owners decided to return early. They held her to a 6-month payment penalty, around £50,000, even though she never set foot inside the house. That wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Lownie writes that years earlier, she paid thousands for another property she ended up not moving into. It's a pattern that captures the heart of her financial troubles.
There is always a residual affection for her as a survivor, as someone who has done some good work for charity, who is very charismatic. I don't think we've seen the last of her.
Impulsive decisions, followed by regret, then massive bills. Her misuse of royal privileges didn't stop at real estate or shopping. The Duchess reportedly charged £6,500 to the Queen's private mail service, a system reserved for official correspondence. She allegedly used it daily to send not just letters, but also expensive gifts to friends and associates. Silver letter openers, money clips, and engraved cufflinks. To her, these were thoughtful tokens. To others, they were yet another example of unchecked entitlement. Behind the glamour, others were footing the cost, literally. After Prince Andrew's office reviewed her mounting expenses, 12 staff members were let go, according to Lownie. Some hadn't been paid for 6 months.
After 4 years of research, after 4 years of looking into this woman, who is, to you, Sarah Ferguson?
Well, Sarah Ferguson is a woman of great charm, great ability, a woman who could do a lot of good, has a great empathetic feel for particularly deprived children.
Long-serving employees, including her driver of 10 years, her dresser Jackie McLeod, and her personal assistant Sally Fish, were all shown the door. One former employee told the author that greed and wastefulness contributed to the Duchess's downfall. For a household that often consisted of just Sarah and her daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, the scale of spending was, as one insider said, simply absurd. Then there's the travel. Fergie reportedly missed countless flights that were non-refundable, wasting thousands in the process. When she did fly, it wasn't exactly light travel. According to multiple reports, she would arrive at airports with as many as 25 suitcases, paying between £800 and £4,000 in excess baggage each time. At least 5 of those bags were filled entirely with toiletries and makeup. One aide recalled that it seemed less about necessity and more about spectacle, a physical display of her wealth, or at least the appearance of it. By the mid-1990s, the consequences had become impossible to ignore. Suppliers stopped extending credit, newspapers began reporting on her financial mismanagement, and the palace grew uneasy about the constant rescues. Eventually, Fergie had to sell personal items, including jewellery and artwork, to stay afloat. Her marriage to Prince Andrew had already collapsed by that point, leaving her without royal protection or access to the same financial safety nets. When she released her autobiography, My Story, in 1996, she admitted to an overdraft of £3.3 million, confirming what had been rumoured for years. She called herself Santa Claus all year long, spending money she didn't have, in an attempt to keep everyone around her happy. But the damage was already done. Ultimately, the story of Sarah Ferguson's spending is about more than receipts and debts.
And we loved going for our walk with the doggies and the corgis, and she loved the smell of daphne plant right now, or magnolia, or the daffodils coming through in spring.
It's about illusion. The illusion of wealth, the illusion of endless privilege, the illusion that charm, and Andrew Lownie's portrayal is blunt, He calls her life a cautionary tale of ambition and financial recklessness. He claims her spending habits, her faith in constant bailouts, and her inability to live within her means all combined to create a perfect storm. By the time her debts peaked, she was being described by some insiders as unmanageable. Charming in public, disastrous in private. Lownie argues that her personality was shaped by insecurity, the need to appear glamorous and generous, even if it meant drowning in debt. Whether one agrees with his conclusions or not, the financial evidence tells its own story. Thousands spent on excess baggage, tens of thousands on gifts and shopping, hundreds of thousands on unneeded staff and rentals, and millions in total arrears. To her credit, Sarah has never denied being extravagant. She's admitted in interviews that she was hopeless with money, often impulsive, and too trusting of others who promised to manage her finances. In later years, she tried to rebuild her image through charity work, books, and media appearances. She's spoken candidly about her mistakes, insisting that she learned from them. But even now, her reputation remains divided. Some see her as a woman unfairly vilified for spending habits that many other aristocrats quietly share. Others believe she represents the very worst side of royal privilege, the sense that rules simply don't apply. Connections can erase consequences. It's also a story about loneliness and insecurity, about someone trying to keep up appearances in a world where image is everything. Behind the lavish banquets, the luxury goods, and the private trainers stood a woman terrified of losing her place in the world she once belonged to. And perhaps that's why she kept spending, even as the debts mounted, because stopping would mean admitting it was all over. In the end, the Duchess of York's story is as tragic as it is extravagant. The woman who once dined with kings found herself drowning in bills, her every indulgence splashed across the tabloids, her every misstep magnified. Sarah Ferguson lived like royalty long after the crown had moved on, and the cost of that fantasy was millions. Whether you see her as reckless, misunderstood, or simply unlucky, one thing's certain: few people in royal history have lived a life quite as colourful or as costly as the Duchess of York. And as the book entitled reminds us, sometimes the price of living like a queen is realising you never were one.